Welcome to another installment of Monday Q&A. I hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. Before we get started, to everybody who submitted a question for this week, thank you very much. I'm going to do my best to get to as many of those as I can. If there's a question you would like me to answer on next week's video, simply put it in the comments section below. And a massive shout out to all my patrons who support what I do here on the channel. If you'd like to sign up as a patron, there is a link in the video description. You can also grab links to the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. We'll be doing a few shows in Melbourne at the start of March. You can follow that link if you want to learn more. And if you want to join my Discord, grab some free cab IRs and support the channel in other ways, it's all there in the video description. Let's get into this week's questions. My thoughts on the Van Halen For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tone. I'm a little bit more of a balanced guy when it comes to Van Hagar, but I think that particular album probably has some of my favorite Van Hagar songs on it. It's got Right Now on it, which I would argue is probably the best Van Hagar song, if not kind of one of the best Van Halen songs ever written. Things like Pleasure Dome on there, of course, Pound Cake. It's one of those albums that, to me, just kind of sounds like a Van Halen album or a Van Hagar album, whatever you want to call it. But I'm sure to a lot of people it was kind of like, oh, Eddie's back killing it on guitar again, because there's way less of the kind of keyboard intense stuff that they did in the late 80s, which I also happen to love. But it's definitely one of the stronger albums in their catalog. When it comes to the tone is wet and wide and wonderful. Probably not as lush and greasy as the tone on Balance. So I'm sure some people probably really like that. But yeah, it's a big, nasty sound. And one thing I like about Eddie is everybody thinks about Eddie Van Halen and they think about that first record and the tone on there. But to me, that first record tone is iconic. The Fair Warning tone is iconic. The Balance era tone, maybe not iconic, but it's pretty awesome. And the FUCK tone as well. It's this whole era of sort of the evolution of this core idea of having this really big guitar sound that fills up a lot of space that still has character and isn't too washed out by effects. Basically, Eddie Van Halen was amazing. Who am I to argue? My favorite Winger song is almost definitely Rainbow in the Rose. I love all of Reb's playing on that song. I love the arrangement. I love the actual song itself. I love Kip's vocals on it, Rod Morgenstein's drumming, the keyboard sounds Paul Taylor is using. It's just the complete package. I could almost choose anything off In the Heart of the Young or Pull. Pull from a pure awesome guitar perspective, I probably like slightly more as an album. It's a little bit more raw, heavy, and in your face. Blind Revolution Mad being a great example of that, or Junkyard Dog. But yeah, for me, the pinnacle of Winger's wingeriness is Rainbow in the Rose, and Kip does an amazing acoustic version live. My suggestions for a Multieffects, either rack-mounted or on the floor, that contains switching relays so you can change the channels on your amp. Couple immediately come to mind. One that is currently in production is the Line 6 HX Effects. I've done a demo of that. I think it's a fantastic unit. Basically does most of what most people would want for something on the floor to integrate with your amp. Fractal made the FX8, which has switching relays. It's now out of production. You can get them for a pretty decent price now, and they're great. They have all the Axe FX2 era effects in them, slightly laid out a little bit differently. I've actually never tried one. I kind of want to grab one. Maybe I should and do a retrospective review on it. But of course, you've got the switching relays in there. The TC Electronics G Major would be another one. I actually used to use that with a head and use the switching relays. So that is one that I'm familiar with when it comes to that. You've also got companies that make little MIDI to switching relay boxes that you could use with your amp. So if none of those do the trick, you could also look into any multi-effects that has MIDI and then one of those kind of switching boxes like the RJM mini amp gizmo, and there's a bunch of other stuff out there like that. But my pick would probably either be a used FX8 or a new HX effects. What makes me inspired to make music? Is it other music? Is it the fact that guitar's just really fun to play? Or is it general life experience, or maybe something a little more esoteric? I'm going to go with all of the above, because earlier in my kind of playing years, I was definitely inspired by nearly everything that I heard. I'd hear a piece of music, I'd try to figure it out, inevitably not figure it out great, and go down the rabbit hole of just kind of chasing that idea and turning it into something that vaguely sounds a little more original. I've definitely written a lot of songs that are inspired by things that have just happened to me in my life, life experience stuff that makes it into song. And there's definitely been times when I've just been noodling around on the guitar when something has popped up. And if you go and listen, especially to Ragdoll's Back to Zero album, I think that one's a pretty good indicator of all of those approaches. There's songs on there which started with a particular guitar idea or a riff. There's songs on there that started, with the lyrics. Maybe a song like Shine would be like that, the lyrics and the vocal melody, and we wrote the rest of the song around it. And then you've got stuff on there that's just fun to play on guitar, like Kung Foolery. That was something that was a last-minute addition. It was just a bit of a jam, but it was fun. And people keep asking for it, but we've never actually played it live. I've talked about the band Pagan's Mind on a previous Q&A. They're basically the Norwegian Dream Theater. Go check them out if you haven't already. But their guitar player, Jorn Viggo, also played on a lot, if not all, of the Jorn Lande albums. And I'm a massive Jorn Lande fan. I love Jorn Viggo's playing on all of that. The production sounds great. I've got nearly all of Jorn's solo albums, so I'm a massive Jorn Lande fan. And because of that, there's other artists, especially European artists, that Jorn has played with, like Beyond Twilight and Masterplan. I want to go to all that stuff. He's one of my favorite singers of all time. Jorn Viggo is an amazing guitar player, somebody who, to me, kind of combines the virtuoso stuff of Petrucci and Vai and those kind of guys with some kind of more slamming modern metal stuff. And I was also asked about Arion, who are one of my favorite bands, and the Universal Migrator double album is probably one of my favorite modern albums ever. Ian Lucassen is a genius, and Star One, the album he did with Russell Allen and a few other people, is super fun if you just like some straight up hard rock as well. Am I blocking links on my channel? I am. I have a filter set up on my channel because I get so much spam on the channel with links that it just makes my life a whole lot better. So if you've posted a link to something in the comments and it looks like it's been deleted or I haven't replied to it, don't take it personally. It's just something that I do generally for the well-being of my channel, and it makes it a lot easier to go through the comments and pick out questions like this. I do go through every couple of weeks and look at all of those and try to pick out if any have accidentally been picked up, and I do try to rectify them. I think they get auto-deleted after a while. So yeah, that is nothing against anybody who wants to post a link. It's just the way I like to run the channel, and life is easier if you don't post links. Then I'll see your comment. The Nembrini 88 MP1 plugin, I was asked about this by several different people, so I wanted to do a video about it. You can check it out on the channel. It came out a couple of days ago. I think it sounds pretty fantastic, and there's some features in there that I definitely didn't expect, like the delay sounds amazing in it, and I think if you like the MP1 and that kind of vibe, spending $30 on that plugin is probably something you're going to want to do, and it's probably $30 well spent. I know there's some very eagle-eyed viewers on here, and this was confirmed to me. Somebody pointed out what's going on with the 11th fret on my Ibanez RG. I used this in my 88 MP1 plugin video. It's just a whole lot of dirt, and when I got this guitar, it was like that, and I've kind of tried to get it out of there, but I don't know if it's like just kind of got into the lacquer or something on there, or maybe I didn't clean it well enough, but yeah, it's just some dirt. I've seen some pretty dirty RG fretboards. I actually suspect, and I can kind of feel it there, that maybe what's happened is the actual fret, like maybe it's been in a bag or something like that with the previous owner, where it's kind of rubbed up against the fret and maybe just taken a little bit of the lacquer off, and then the dirt has kind of just adhered to it a little bit more. But otherwise, the guitar's in pretty decent condition. I mean, there's the good old RG hairline crack. I don't know if you can see that. It's right here. I think the contrast is too high. But yeah, there's a bit of a hairline crack. The neck's in decent enough condition. The frets are pretty good. Just has that weird, dirty 11th fret. To round out this week, who do I think is the most underrated guitar player of all time? This is very much a loaded question because no matter who I name, someone who is a massive fan of that particular player, who is influenced by them and has listened to a lot of their music and kind of generally worships them, is going to say, they're not underrated. They're one of the most beloved guitar players of all time. I love their stuff. How could you say they're underrated? So I think when we're talking about underrated players, there's the players that kind of slip under the radar with the kind of guitar community at large, which, I don't know how much of a guitar community at large there really is. And there's sort of the players who don't make it into, the Rolling Stone 100 greatest guitar players of all time. So if we're talking about the Rolling Stone 100 greatest guitar players of all time, you can basically chuck that one in the bin. It doesn't really mean that much. They do those lists so that they can kind of seem relevant and, sell copies of their magazine or get clicks on their website, whatever they do nowadays. If it's with the kind of guitar playing public at large, well, I don't know if it would be somebody who is considered a guitar player full time, or if it would be somebody who just kind of plays a little bit of guitar here and there. And I'm going to be the ultimate fence sitter here and not give you an answer for this question. I want to hear from all of you. Who do you think is a criminally underrated guitar player, whether they're somebody who is known for their guitar playing or whether they are someone who is known for playing another instrument, but you think they're pretty awesome on guitar? So I want to hear from all of you. Let me know in the comments section below. If you've got any other questions for next week, of course, put them in the comments section below, and maybe I'll take a week to think about that and actually give you all an answer. In my opinion, who is the most underrated guitar player of all time next week? Until then, have a great week. See you next time.